Welcome back, everyone. For today's video, we are going to be talking about the man, the myth, the legend that is Peng Bo from China. Now, Peng Bo is a player who has no FIDE rating, but he is playing in one of the most prestigious tournaments out there, which is the FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Team Chess Championship being held in Astana. He's competing in this event alongside the players like Magnus Carlsen, Jan Nepomniachtchi, Ding Liren, etc. Now, he's a player who is playing for the team Decade China. He is their board 6 player playing on the bottom board, and as you can tell from the ratings, he is listed as 1400, but he does not have a FIDE rating at all. So let's jump right into the action. First thing we're taking a look at is from the second round of this FIDE World Rapid and Blitz Team Chess Championship. Peng Bo, I should say, playing with the white pieces against Rinat Naimanov from Uzbekistan. So the game starts out here with the move e4. We get the move e5, knight c3, knight f6, and we get the move f4. Now, there is some chance that Peng Bo, being a new player to the game of chess, he is trying to play these Vienna openings. This is something that Levy has actually suggested for beginner players, but this is also something that seasoned players might play as well. Now, he's playing against a 1600 player, so probably wants to try and create some imbalances. So we get the move d5 here, pawn takes pawn, knight takes e4, and now we get the move queen f3. Now, yours truly, myself, Hikaru, I have played this variation of the Vienna many times with the white pieces in a ton of blitz games. It's probably not the greatest system to play, but it's something where if your opponent is not ready for it, you can get a decisive advantage very quickly. So we get the move knight c6 played here. Now we have bishop to b5, and in this position, Naimanov makes a mistake with the move f5. Now, according to modern day theory, black is supposed to be fine after knight takes knight, pawn takes queen h4, g3, and the move queen to e4. And after takes, the position is supposed to be about balanced, although it is probably a little bit easier for black. Once again, I have actually had this exact position. I had it in the US Championship, I believe in 2005, if I'm not mistaken, against Alexander Yermolinsky. I could have the year confused, but I have had this position myself with the white pieces. So instead, we get the move f5 here from Naimanov. We get d3, takes. Now we get the move bishop e7. We have the move d4 being played. We get castles, knight e2, g5 played here, and now this great move h4. Now this is an excellent move. It is the best move in the position according to the computer, and we're starting to see where the legend begins, because for Peng Bo from China, this is a move that you would never expect a 1400 to play, but it does show his strength. And one of the famous quotes that I'm familiar with is the classic one, which is, the strongest of us sometimes have the hardest time fighting what's inside, which means you sometimes don't want to be super aggressive, but you have to go forward. So we got this move h4 being played, f4 played by Naimanov. We get takes. Now we get the move knight takes f4 being played. We have bishop to h4 check, pawn g3, bishop to g5, and now we get the move queen takes pawn. Here Naimanov trades the queens, and he goes bishop to d8 here, retreating the bishop, trying to guard the pawn and stop the move knight f6. We get the move knight to f4, knight to e7, bishop c4 check, king g7, knight to h5 check, king h8, and now after this move bishop to h6, Naimanov simply resigns here because he is going to lose this rook. If you move the rook, here we go, we get checkmate, skadoosh, game is over, black loses. You can try something like rook g8 to keep pieces on the board, but after takes and king g8, not knight takes, by the way, because bishop g7 is simply checkmate. But after king takes g8 here, white has 20 ways to win. One of the simplest ones is simply to castle, intending to go for the checkmate with rook to f8. So a dominating game from Peng Bo from China in the second round. A great win against the 1643, and already you can tell that Peng Bo is not playing at a 1400 level or a beginner whatsoever. Now, one thing that I did not mention at the start of the video is that Peng Bo is a player who was born in 1998. He is 26 years old, so he's not someone who is super young. One of these wonderkin super talents is coming out of nowhere to surprise us all. So Peng Bo wins this game. Great start. He gets a win in the first game of the tournament. Now, Peng Bo would win rounds 3 and 4 to move to a score of 3 out of 3. And the next game we're going to be taking a look at is round number 5. Now, round number 5, we're not going to go through the whole game, but instead we're going to start from this position right here on move number 48. Peng Bo with the white pieces playing against a 2000 level player. So now we've gone from a 1600 to a 2000, and Peng Bo as a total beginner of the game of chess, surely he won't know how to checkmate with the bishop and knight against the king, right? Because even players like Hikaru, I only had 1 minute on the clock, but I was unable to win this against Norbek Abdustorov in one of the Rapid Chess Championships, I believe it was, back in 2022. And so for a player like Peng Bo, new to the game, surely he's not going to know how to checkmate, right? Well, let's see. So we get king to e6, king e4, king f6, knight f3, king e6, check, king f6. Black tries to bring the king to the correct corner, which is the dark square corner. The opposite color is light square B. So white wants the king in this corner so that you can checkmate with the bishop on the diagonal, but black tries to keep the king in the dark square corner. So we get king e6, king g7, bishop to f5. Here, king h8, knight g5, king g8, and now we get this move, knight to f7. This move stops black from moving the king either to h8 or h7, and so we have king f8. Pangbo plays bishop h7, stopping the king from going to g8. We get king e8, and now we have knight to e5, stopping the king from escaping on the light squares. What black would love to do is transport this king, and just to illustrate the point, all the way down to this a1 square, because the two corners that matter here are these two dark square corners, the opposite corners of the light square B. So we get king to d, we get king to f8 being played. Pangbo goes check, king e8, king e6 here. Now the king can't run to f8. We get king d8, king d6, king e8. His opponent Hikaru desperate to escape with the king, but now we get bishop g6 check, king d8, and now the move knight c5. King still cannot escape to the e8 square, so we get king to c8, and now Pangbo plays bishop to e8. We get king d8, bishop to b5, king c8, and now we have knight to e6 here. Now the king cannot escape. King still desperately wants to go towards the dark square corner, but it is stuck. We get king b7, king c5, king c8, king b6, king b8, and now we have to move bishop to a6. After king to a8, we get knight c5, king b8, knight d7, and here Hikaru Mukhtar resigns the game against Pangbo in view of king to a8 and bishop b7 checkmate. So round number 5, Pangbo wins again. He's now 4 out of 4. He's beaten some good players. He's beats the 2000. He shows great technique mating with the bishop and knight. What can Pangbo not do? So now we're going to move to round number 8. Sorry that I have it on move number 5. My apologies, you guys. Shows my editing skills. Where Pangbo is playing with the white piece against Vadim Rosenstein from Germany. Now, Vadim Rosenstein is a very well-known chess sponsor. He's organized a lot of tournaments in Germany over the years. He is the primary sponsor of the WR chess team, which has players like Magnus Carlsen, Jan Nepomniachtchi, Pragnananta, and Hu Yifan, and of course, some other very strong players as well. So he's the sponsor of the WR team, which did win this event last year, but he is also playing on board number 6. So Pangbo playing against an 1887, and the game starts with the move e4. We got c5, knight f3, e6, knight c3, knight c6, and now we have the move d4 being played. We got chop chop, and we get the move knight to f6 from Rosenstein. We get the move a3 here. This is also a line that I have played quite frequently with the white pieces. The reason behind this is that if you don't go for the super sharp line, which involves this knight e4, knight d6, something like queen 7, f4, queen b6, where there's a ton of theory, a3 is a very quiet move where you don't move the knight from d4, but additionally you stop black from playing bishop b4. If you were to play a quiet move like bishop e2 here, black can go bishop b4, pinning the knight, but also creating a lot of threats towards this pawn on e4. White is still okay here, but in general, if you don't want to go for the super sharp lines, a3 is a very logical move. So we get a6 here from Rosenstein, and now we have g3, bishop e7, bishop g2, castles, and the move knight to b3. We got h6, f4, and now we have queen c7, and the move g4 from Pangbo. Now, once again, here is Pangbo going all in here with g4 in one go. This is showing a tremendous amount of confidence, and as the classic saying goes from the famous movie Kung Fu Panda, you have to believe in yourself. That's the secret, according to Poe. So in this position, Pangbo is showing true confidence here. Don't forget, he's played g3 and bishop g2, but now he just goes g4 trying to attack on the king side, and the guy has no fear. Now, of course, he is on 7 points out of 7 going into this game, so why should he have anything to fear but fear itself? We get the move knight to h7. Now we have h4 from Pangbo, just going all in here, attacking on the king side. And frankly, if I saw this game being played online, I would think it's something like myself or Daniel Naroditsky in a speed run, or a situation where we're playing someone much lower rated and we're simply trying to cheese them and blow them off the board. So we get the move f6 from Rosenstein here, and now we get the move bishop to e3. We get b5, queen to d2. Pangbo wants to castle the king to the queen side and then break through on the king side very, very quickly. We have the move knight to a5, and here Pangbo plays knight d5, and after this move, the position is simply very, very bad for black. Again, Pangbo showing tremendous tactics, tremendous understanding of the game here. Knight to d5 is simply the best move because now you're attacking the knight on a5 here twice. You're also forking the queen and the bishop, and after we get pawn takes knight, Pangbo correctly decides to play the move knight a5. He does not go queen takes pawn here because after king to h8 and queen takes a8 here, Black can now go knight c6, and it's spaghetti-o time. Your queen is simply hemmed in here. Let's just say you castle, and after bishop to b7, there's no square available for the queen. Black guards the rook here, and you're going to lose the queen, and most likely the game as well. But Pengbo, of course, he is no mere ordinary person. He is not a beginner, clearly. He takes the knight on a5, and now the threat of queen to d5, hitting the king and the rook at the same time, is still in play. Rosenstein plays d4. We got bishop takes pawn. d5 played here, trying desperately to open up the diagonals for the bishop, maybe open up the center of the board and attack the white king on e1. Pengbo plays e5 here, another very good move, not the best move actually according to the computer, but it's logical because now you want to open the scope and you also want to create the classic double wooden shield. We got bishop to e6, Pengbo castles, we get rook c8, and now we have pawn takes pawn, bishop takes, and we get takes, and the move g5. Now you will note that Pengbo has made some mistakes. So when we talk about Pengbo and his performance, he is playing well, but he makes a couple of mistakes here, and now he finally starts to show some vulnerability. So after g5, we get to move knight to g4. This is a mistake. Computer wants knight e4, and mainly because after takes here, the knight on a5, it's kind of out of lunch here. There's pressure on the c file, there's pressure of rook d8, pressure of e3, and the f4 pawn is very weak as well. After king to b1, I think the computer wants this quiet move h5 before rook d8 and e3, and with this loose knight on a5 here, say you go knight b3, now there's e3 here, massive pressure towards the pawn on c2. After takes, king a2, for example, black can simply go bishop to f7 here, and there's this massive problem with the pin of the bishop towards the king and the knight. So Rosenstein instead goes knight g4, we get pawn takes pawn, knight takes pawn, and now we get rook hf1, rook d8, and after king to b1, Pengbo has survived the worst of it. He wants to either bring the knight back to d4, or if black plays d4, reroute the horse to c6, forking the rook and the pawn. So we got knight to f5, now we have bishop to h3, another great move here. White would love to get rid of this knight on f5, and here we get the move queen c2 being played by Rosenstein. Now, of course, the players are not the strongest players in the world, but probably here what black should do is play something like d4, desperately trying to open up some diagonals, maybe go for some tricks with knight e3. But keep in mind, Rosenstein probably feeling a lot of pressure here. You can see that he's got a weak king. There's an open g file. There's a pin here. He's also down a pawn. So he's trying to do anything he can to go for tactics. Now, this is not the craziest move in the world, if not for white being able to move the king to a critical square, because after knight to e3, we get the classic family fork. Knight forks the rook and the king, but here Pengbo is able to play king d3. If white were to go king b1, for example, or almost any square, b3, c3, or b1, any square except these two, d3 and d2, after bishop takes h3, black is probably better here because both rooks are still forked, and now when you move the rook and I trade, you'll notice that here black has a rook and bishop in return for a rook and a knight. But after king to d3 is played, when bishop takes bishop occurs, Pengbo can calmly capture the knight on e3, and after d4, king d2, takes, white simply has a rook and a knight versus a rook. The game goes on for quite a few more moves, but Pengbo does ultimately convert. I'm not really going to go through the rest of the game. I'll just get to the end. Pengbo eventually is able to bring the knight around, capture this pawn here. He has a rook, knight, and a pawn in return for, or sorry, I should say a knight and pawn in return, or extra material. And this is simple. We get check here, block, just getting to the end of the game. Eventually Pengbo will win this. He takes, now he's got a rook, knight, and two pawns versus a rook. Rosenstein doesn't resign at this level. I'm not going to fault him for not resigning. You simply want to keep the game going. Maybe you'll get a stalemate or something will happen. So eventually Pengbo keeps pushing the pawns up the board. We get this position with a7, knight guards the pawn, rook guards the queening square, and after king takes, a8 equals queen, we get check, king d2, and here Vadim Rosenstein resigns the game. Pengbo simply is a queen, a rook, and a knight in return for a rook. There's not really anything Rosenstein can do. He's going to lose this game. So with this win, this moved Pengbo to 7 out of 7. Now Pengbo would go on to win his next 4 games and have an undefeated score of 11 points out of 11. So to show you guys this final result here, you'll see that Pengbo started in round number 2. He did not play the first round of the rapid portion, but ultimately he beats everyone. He beats a 2025, he beats a 1900, beats some 1800, just blows everyone away, and he achieves immortality with the score of 11 out of 11. what to say, but simply an incredible performance from Pang Bo. Now, I did take a look at Twitter this morning because obviously everybody was talking about Pang Bo and his incredible result. Obviously, he's not a complete beginner at the game. In fact, I think it's pretty clear that he probably simply has not had the chance to play FIDE events, but no doubt he has played tournaments in China. I saw this additional graphic, which I'll pop up, of a tournament that Pang Bo played, I believe in China, or maybe this is a China Team Championship, where again, you see him playing these 9 games and he gets a win in every single game, including wins over a couple of 2100s, Alfonso Ruiz and Alfonso Ruiz Sanchez, and also Georgi Grimm. So again, I saw this on Twitter. I'm not sure exactly like whether this wasn't FIDE rate or what happened, but nonetheless, it's clear that Pang Bo is not a 1400. He probably should not have even been playing on board 6 for the team. But this is one of the great things about chess, is with the internet nowadays, players have the opportunity to compete against people from all over the world. You don't have to travel to tournaments, you don't have to spend money, have these expenses. You can simply play online and improve your level. And I have no doubt that Pang Bo is probably a player who's played many games online. I have no idea what his account is, of course, but he's probably played many games online, had some great performances, and he is showing how chess is something where you can go on the internet, you don't have to travel, and great players can come sort of out of the blue, frankly, as we've seen in events like Title Tuesday. So a fantastic result for Pang Bo. He achieves immortality with this great 11 out of 11 score, and really nothing to say other than I'm excited to see him play in some tournaments in the future and see if he's like master level, a little bit above that where he's at. But he is a great player, and he has a phenomenal performance. He was the star of the event with his perfect score, and I'm sure we'll be talking about a lot more in the near future. So on that note, I hope you guys have enjoyed this recap of the man, the myth, the legend that is Pang Bo from China, who played for the Decade China team. Now, they would ultimately finish in second place. They were not able to win the event, but he played a crucial role in their overall performance and just a miraculous run for the team. So on that note, hope you guys have enjoyed the recap. Sorry for that little bit of brief stop. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button below, and I will be back soon with some more great recaps from the classical chess tournaments that are going on around the world. See you guys. Have a good one. Bye.